بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lessons in Adab Suluk al-Murid and likewise in Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us tawfiq and hidayah, that we are able to practice this knowledge, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who are close to Him in dunya and akhirah. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah we will look into the page that we are in our last lesson. So we are in the chapter 9 of Adab Suluk al-Murid, where Al-Imam al-Haddad speaks about remembrance and reflection. So in the last lesson, last two lessons that we entered into Adab Suluk al-Murid, there was a problem in the audio for the video, but for the speaker, you can find the recording there. But what I would like to do, inshallah, we will speak again on this topic because of its importance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah equip our hearts with iman and bless us with dhikr and fikr. So in Arabic, any remembrance and reflection, it is called as dhikr wal fikr. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, فَأَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So in the Quran, Allah speaks about the ulul albab, those who possess intelligence, and Allah mentioned that their characteristics is يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهِ, that they are always in constant remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They always remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qiyaman wa qu'udan wa ala junubihim. They remember Allah while standing, while sitting, while lying down. Meaning in every situation and every moment they are engaging in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the thing, and we try our best to engage in zikrullah in each and every moment, and we try our best so we can recite subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wa akbar. We can switch into astaghfirullah al-azim, astaghfirullah al-azim, astaghfirullah al-azim, and we can get in our hearts. There is not necessary that we recite loudly when we are working or when we are outside or holding any tasbih, but we can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts. So we can make salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tonight is the night of Jumu'ah, and the night in Jumu'ah and the day of Jumu'ah, it is recommended that we make salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we can recite Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Oh Allah, bless our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companions, the family. And likewise, we recite the Baqiyatu Salihat, Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. So we can fill our time when we are alone, and we can engage in this kind of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the characteristics of the ulul albab, the characteristics of the anbiya, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They engage in the remembrance of Allah at all times. Likewise, the awliya, the saints and the ulama, al-amilin, scholars who practice their knowledge, and which we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, that able us to give us these blessings, that we are able to emulate these characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the first part where Al-Imam al-Haddad is mentioning. So he said the second thing is a reflection, and in Arabic we call it al-fikr, because in the Quran it speaks وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, they ponder upon the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this earth, how Allah created the sun, how Allah created the moon, how Allah created human beings, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down rain and vegetation and cattle, and how we are able to attain any benefit from the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we are able to live our lives as human beings, how are we able to shelter ourselves and having any families and children. So all these are the manifestations of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this requires ponderance, al-fikr. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So everything that happens, it happens by the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why it is highly important for us Muslims to ponder upon the creations, because the creations are the effects of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah brought us into existence. So we are the effect of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can see the greatness of these effects. How Allah bless us with the eyes to see, how Allah bless us with the ears to hear. We look at our bodies, and Allah said, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Do you not ponder upon your bodies? How Allah bless us with the heart, the kidney, all these things are functioning, the blood that is in our bodies, our system, how our body function. Allah is the one who is controlling our heartbeat, the flow of our blood. So we are a sophisticated machine. And some people are saying human beings are sophisticated machines. So machines you are in need of the one who operate, the operator of the machine. And today if you have a machine or just a handphone, there must be someone who is operating the machine, the one who press the start button, the one who ensure that the battery must always be there, that when it requires to be charged, and it be charged. All these things, there must be someone who is operating machine. But who is operating human beings? And we do not have any control of our heartbeat. We do not have any control of our blood flow. Someone else is controlling it for us, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we ponder upon this meaning, and we understand Allah exists, and Allah is sustaining us. We are unable to sustain in ourselves. Today human beings they are deluded into thinking that they are able to sustain themselves. But in reality, Allah is sustaining us. How do you sustain yourself when you are asleep, and you sleep for example 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day? Who is sustaining you when you are asleep? So certainly we are not sustaining ourselves when we are unconscious. But there is someone else who is sustaining us. So if we say that we are sustaining ourselves, then how about when we are asleep? When we are asleep, our body still function. Our blood flow, our intake of oxygen, that has to be continuous, otherwise we will die. Likewise, our functioning of the kidneys, of the lungs, of the intestines, and the food is digested, and all these things. Our body parts basically, what you call it, are still functioning and intact. The soul that is in our body is still there. It has not been removed yet. So all these things is determined by our Creator, our Maker. So that is why it is important for human beings to ponder upon himself, to understand the existence of the Creator. Even that many people do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what in the Quran mentioned, وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But the reality is most people do not know about this reality. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. They do not use their intellect, because they are deluded into the world of the dunya. They use their vision, and they use whatever things that they have, just for the sake of the dunya, to gain the worldly gains. So people are deprived of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we Muslims we are blessed by Allah, by Islam, Iman and Islam. So it is important for us to ponder upon this greatest ni'mah that Allah can bless any human being. May Allah bless us with istiqamah. So there are two things basically Imam al-Haddad is saying. One is zikr, the other one is fikr. So how are we able to cultivate in ourselves the culture or the conscience of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So we have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot. How are we able to build this in ourselves? And also we reflect upon ourselves, and reflect upon our families, reflect upon our societies, reflect upon the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So fikr is one of the important aspects of spirituality. So he said, what really determined for the one traveling to the path of Allah, the Exalted, after having obeyed commands and avoided forbidden things, is to persevere in remembering Allah. Yani, besides obeying Allah in the commandments, refraining from the prohibitions, then comes the path to remember Him. How are we able to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So dear seeker, do keep it at all times and places with the heart and with the tongue. So sometimes we remember Allah with our hearts, sometimes we remember Allah with our tongues. So that's what I mentioned earlier. You can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without saying it out. Yani, you repeat in your hearts, and this is called dhikr khafi. It is a conceal form of dhikr, and then we have dhikr jali, when we recite the adhkar, when we recite. So daily we must have these both types of dhikr, and we must have the dhikr that we recite, the recitation of the Quran, for example, and likewise the aurah. Like today, every day we are reciting, for example, with the latif or with the sakran. So this we recite loudly. But when it comes to when we are working, for example, when we are walking to our workplace, when we are in our workplace, for example, when we are outside, and even with our families, so we can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the heart. So this is important. May Allah bless us with tawfiq. The invocations which contains the complete meanings of all invocations collectively and their fruits, whether hidden or manifest, is La ilaha illallah. So here Imam al-Haddad is pointing out one of the best forms of adhkar, that is the recitation of La ilaha illallah, because La ilaha illallah encompass many meanings. It speaks about the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It speaks about the power of Allah, the knowledge of Allah. So we say La ilaha, there is none worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are negating everything other than Allah. Allah is the one who is the creator of everything. He is the sustainer of everything. He is the one who brought everything into existence, and nothing besides Allah can cause any effect. So efficacy only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is not in need of anything. Allah is not in need of human beings. Allah is not in need of angels. Allah is not in need of place, and so on. But everything else is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So part of the meaning of La ilaha illallah is the belief that Allah is not in need. Allah is not in need. But everything else other than Allah are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why it is important for us to see ourselves as servants who are in need. Al-Faqr, that we are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at each and every moment of our lives. So when we recite La ilaha illallah, it is important for us to ponder the meaning. So when we ponder upon La ilaha illallah, we believe and we remember that only Allah possesses power. Only Allah possesses any power. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wajibul wujud, that his existence is necessary. Other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are mumkinul wujud, where they are brought into existence by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they do not have any independent power within themselves, but they are in need of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the remembrance instituted for those who begin the path to Allah, and join to keep to and return with it for those ending the journey. So in books of Tasawwuf, always our scholars they speak about being on the path, on the path. So it is a path to Allah. So it is a metaphorical statement. It is not literally a path, but we are speaking about our life in this world is to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are taking this path to attain pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by abiding by His commandments, refraining from the prohibitions, following the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yani remembering any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pondering any upon any His greatness. So these are the things that will bring us any closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the things any that will make us reach any Allah. So La ilaha illallah yani is certainly any one any of those invocations that is highly recommended any for a seeker to Allah to engage himself any with its recitation. So whether it is for the beginner or the one any who have already reached. So here Imam al-Haddad any mentioned it is for everyone. It is any for everyone, because the ponderance any upon the meaning any of La ilaha illallah is something any that is endless. Yani the bounties any that Allah bless for a person any who engage in this kind any of remembrance, it is something any that is endless any for yani in terms any of His rewards and in terms any of His bounties. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq and hidayah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So now inshallah ta'ala we will enter into the next any book. So the next any book any is Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah, and we are still any in the chapter any of prayers. So in our last lesson any basically what I mentioned any is the timing any for the prayers. So I hope any it is clear inshallah ta'ala. So the author any speaks any about the Zuhur prayers, the Asr prayers, the Maghrib any prayers, and the Isya prayers. So now when we go on, we are here in page 57. Yeah, this is the last thing any that we stopped any last week, where the author any mentioned وَيُكْرَهُ النَّوْمِ قَبْلَهَا وَالْحَدِيثُ بَعْدَهَا إِلَّا فِي خَيْرٍ أَوْ حَاجَةٍ. And this is based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that the Prophet prohibited us any to sleep any before Isya, to sleep any before Isya. It is said any that it will cause any a person any to have difficulty into to sleep any at night. So it's makruh any to sleep any before Isya, and it is also makruh hadith ba'daha, yani to talk any with each other yani unnecessarily after Isya. It is also not recommended, except any illa fi khairin aw hajatin, except any in matters any of goodness any and of importance, and when there is any a need any for us any to speak about or having any classes any, all this any is no issue. Wal afdalul a'mal as-salatu awwal al-waqt, and the most virtuous any of all worship is to pray on time. So to pray on time any is to pray during any waqtul fadila, as what any we mentioned about any waqtul any fadila. Wa yahsulu dhalika bi an yashtagila bi asbab as-salati hina dakhala al-waqt. So again any I repeat, waqtul fadila, this is the meaning of waqtul fadila. Yani it is basically the time any you take to take ablution, to perform the adhan and iqamah, to wear any your clothes, to pray any the rawatib prayers, any qabliyah for example. So the span any of time use any to perform any these acts. So this is any within the range any of fadila. So maybe any we speak any about 15 or 20 minutes. So if Zuhur any is 1 p.m, so by 1:20 any there's no more waqtul fadila. So to pray any the Zuhur prayer by the waqtul fadila. So if you say 15 minutes any for example from 1 o'clock any to 1:15, it is waqtul fadila. So this is any the best time any to pray. But once any it goes out, then it becomes waqtul ikhtiyar, as what I mentioned yani last week. So the virtues any differ, and this based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a sahabi any asked any the Prophet, what is any the best of all virtues, the best and of all this in Ya Rasulullah, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned as-salatu fi waqtiha, aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yani to pray any at the early hour. ويسن تأخير عن أول الوقت للإبراد بالظهر للجمعة. So we have an exception here. When comes into extreme heat, and for example in summer, so it is sunnah to delay the Zuhur prayers. So they call it this ibrad. Al-ibradu bi-zuhri. Ibrad, and it basically comes in from the word bard, yani coolness. So it is sunnah yani for the imam to delay prayers, not any to pray at the early hour yani of Zuhur, because that is any the time anywhere it is very hot. So it is a sunnah yani to delay. But our ulama any mentioned, and this is, that's what he mentioned any by the author after that. He say fil harri bil baladil har, and it is only applicable yani to countries that are hot. What is the meaning in countries that are hot? Countries that are hot, any meaning they have any this season, the summer any season, where the temperatures any can get into a situation where it can be harmful any for people. It can be harmful where people any can suffer any from heat stroke. So not all countries any are like that. So for example, most any of these countries are in the Middle East, in parts any of Africa. As far as our country is concerned, Singapore, and it is not considered to be a hot country. It is a medium. It is we call it the equatorial country, where we are near to the equator. So for the whole year, our temperature is not any too hot and not too cold. So we are not any considered to be baladul har. Baladul har any like places any like Yemen, the Hijaz, any for example Kuwait, and some any of the countries in Khalij, where summer the temperature reaches any 45 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Celsius. Ours in Singapore, I think the most any we get maybe 33 degrees Celsius, and this is bearable. This is bearable. So it is not sunnah any for us any to delay any our prayer. But when it comes into places any like in the desert, any for example where temperatures is 50 degrees Celsius and in the summertime, and people any have difficulty any to come into the masjid, so it can any be delayed, and there is no specific timing any for this delay. The delay any depends any on the situation, where if it is too hot, then we can delay any to a time where it is cooler, and people any can take any the shades yani when coming any to the masjid. So he said liman yusalli jama'atan. So only any applicable any for those any who pray jama'ah any at the masjid, meaning they have to go out any from their house. But for those any who praying in their houses, there is no sunnah for them any to delay their zuhur. So this is only applicable any for people any who are going out any to perform the jama'ah at a particular place. Then it is a sunnah any for the people there to delay the zuhur prayer. So this is basically the author is saying this is an exceptional case. Liman yusalli jama'atan fi mawdi'in ba'id. This is another condition. So it is a far place. It is a far place. Ila husul dhil. So until to what extent do we delay any of the zuhur prayers? Ila husul dhil. When we are able any to see shadows any from the walls. Because when it comes into the zuhur prayers, and as what we mentioned, the sun any is on top, so there is not much any shadow. But when there is any shadow, yani some amount any of shadow, any where people any can walk any in between any those shadows to the masjid any for example, then what you call it? It is permissible for us any to delay any up any to the emergence any of those any shadows. Waliman tayaqqana sutrata akhir al-waqt. And this and another situation the author any is saying all these are basically exceptional cases. Yani a person any for example any he doesn't have clothes any to cover his aurah, but he said that before the end any of the time, yani for example Zuhur any is at 1 p.m, it finishes any at 4 p.m, for example, he knows at 3:30 someone is coming any to give him clothes at 3:30, and with conviction he say liman tayaqqana as-sutrata. Sutra here meaning any a cloth to cover any oneself. Akhir al-waqt. So he knows any that at the end any of the prayer time, someone any is going any to give him a sutra. So if it is based any on conviction, it is better for him to delay. It is better any for him any to delay any the prayers and not any to pray early, because he is convinced that someone is going to provide any for him clothes any for him any to wear. Otherwise any he be praying in a state any of not covering of the aurah, then he has to make i'adah again. So it is better for him any to wait. So this is the second exceptional case. The third, he say, liman tayaqqana al-jama'ata akhirahu. So this is a lot of questions and people are asking about this. He said, for example, people are saying that if I pray in the beginning of the time, I pray alone. But if I pray later, I can get jama'ah. Because I know my friends are coming, and they are coming at 3:30 p.m. for example, so I can pray jama'ah with them. So which is better? You pray alone at the beginning of the time, or you wait for your friends, and you pray at the end of the timing of the prayer. So here, if you are convinced, tayaqqan. So for those who have the book, please underline in this word, tayaqqana. So it is translated as for the one who is certain that he is able to pray in congregation at the end of the prayer time. So for example, Zuhur is at 4 p.m. So for example, you know that your friends are coming at 3:30, for example, or 3:40. So it is better for you to pray in jama'ah, so that you get the fadilatul jama'ah. Tamam? وَكَذَا لَوْ ظَنَّهَا وَلَمْ يَفْحُشْ التَّأْخِيرِ. Then the author mentioned, and pertaining to this situation, it is also encouraging for him, even he have zon. He have any zon, meaning there is high possibility. High possibility that the friends are coming at 3:30. As long as it is not too late, then it is a sunnah to wait for them. Higher possibility, any zon. So he knows, someone is coming, but it's not confirmed, but most probably that person is coming, for example. So it is better for him to wait and to pray with that person jama'ah. Tamam? And then he mentioned, وَلِلْ غَيْمِ حَتَّى يَتَيَقَّنَ الْوَقْتَ أَوْ يَخَافَ الْفَوَاتِ. And when a person now in a state, where he is not sure, about the coming of the timing of the prayer, the coming of the timing of prayer. He is not 100% confident that the time of Maghrib, for example, has come. So it is better for him to delay. It is better for him to delay, so that he is in a state of conviction. Hatta yatayaqqan al-waqt, until he come into a state of conviction that the time of prayer has entered. Likewise, for example, you go overseas, and then you do not know whether the time of Asr has come or the time of Zuhur has come. So it is better that you delay into a situation where you are convinced that the prayer time has come. Then you perform your prayer. But of course, we spoke about Isya in last time. You can do any Isya and you can pray your prayer is valid. But here we are speaking about having the conviction. So it is better for a person convinced that the prayer time has come. Or he he is afraid that he might not perform the prayer. A person he is afraid that that the prayer time might be in a situation where he will miss the prayer. Then it is better for him not to delay his prayer to such an extent that the prayer can go out of the timing. وَمَنْ صَلَّى رَكَعَةً فِي الْوَقْتِ فَهِيَ أَدَاءٌ أَوْ دُونَهَا فَقَضَاءٌ. Those who pray one raka'ah of prayer within the stipulated time, then his prayer is ada'an. Otherwise, it is qada'an. So, for example, Asr is at 4 p.m. A person he prays Zuhur, for example, at 3:57, for example. So he takes 1 minute to recite the Fatiha, and then he performs the ruku, i'tidal, sujud, then the second sujud. When he goes up in qiyam, it is still Zuhur prayers, and the time of Asr has not come. So meaning his prayer now is ada'an. So we say that he has prayed one full raka'ah in the prayer time. He has prayed one full raka'ah in the prayer time. But if he has not attained one full raka'ah in the prayer time, the prayer is qada'an. So for example, while doing ruku or while doing i'tidal, the time of Asr comes in. Now he look at he knows it's already 4 o'clock. So this particular prayer is considered to be qada'an. even though yani you intend as adaan, automatically it becomes qada'an. So here is the thing, and we have to understand. Automatically, and it becomes any qada'an. Yani why? Because you have not performed the full rak'ah within the stipulated any time. It has gone out any of the prayer time. So it becomes any qada'an and not ada'an. So inshallah, I think going forward, I will just make it faster. I want this lesson to be simple. Although I can speak about a lot of things, some of the hadith and dalil and all these things, if I want to. But I want to make it simple, and so I think so that easy for people to follow. So he mentioned after that, وَيَحْرُمُ تَأْخِيرُهَا إِلَىٰ أَنْ يَقَعَ بَعْضُهَا خَارِجَهُ. And it is haram, prohibited if you pray and part any of your prayers are outside the prayer timing. So earlier we mentioned, for example, as long as you get one full rakah in the prayer time, your prayer is adaan. But if you purposely delay the prayer to such that part any of the prayers are outside of the timing of the prayer, you are sinful. So you have entered into waqtul hurma. So as what I mentioned last week, I spoke about waqtul hurma. Waqtul hurma meaning you pray the prayer and part of the prayer goes out of the prayer time. So for example, Asr is 4 p.m. You pray Zuhur at 3:58. 3:58. So even you get the full rak'ah in the prayer time, but your second, your third, your fourth rak'ah, for example, in the time of Asr, you are sinful if you purposely delay your prayer without any valid reason. But your prayer is valid. So your prayer is valid, but you are sinful. So there's such things that your ibadah is valid, but you are sinful. Ibadah is valid and ibad, but you are sinful. So this time, we say you have entered into waqtul hurma. So for example, if you take 5 minutes to pray your Zuhur prayers, if you start to pray your Zuhur at 3:56, then you have entered 1 minute of haram time. Because 3:55 to 4 o'clock is waqtul hurma. So now you enter 3:56. So 1 minute is haram for you. So this is waqtul hurma. So I hope it is clear inshallah. And then he mentioned faslun wa man jahila al-waqta akhadha bi khabari thiqatin yukhbiru an ilmin. This is pertaining to ijtihad. Ijtihad basically means to put in effort to find what you call it, the solutions to problems that we are facing. So he said, وَمَنْ جَهِلَ الْوَقْتِ, and those who does not know whether the time of prayer has come or has not come. You are in a state where you are in doubt whether the time of prayer has come or has not come. You cannot pray. What you need to do is to do ijtihad. You have to put in efforts by looking at the watch, looking at the timetable, for example, to find out the timetable. Nowadays, mashallah, Allah has made ijtihad very easy with our application. You can find out where you are and what is the timing of the location that you are in, and then you can also adjust your timing in your phone to adjust to the local timing that you are in, especially when you are away. For example, you travel to overseas, to country that is far, and automatically nowadays our phones automatically the time will change according to the time that we are in. And then you can go to the net and then you can find out, like if you are in Morocco, for example, which part of Morocco you are in. You can know that okay, in Fez, for example, the time of Zuhur is maybe 12 o'clock. So you can have you can see and so on. So you can find out. This is part of ijtihad. Likewise, if you are in other parts of the world. Likewise, when it comes to compasses. Last time we don't have handphones. So we have difficulty. We have to ask people around where is the Qibla and all these things. Now, mashallah, you can follow. You can download a lot of applications for compass. So, mashallah, Allah make it easy. Allah make it easy for Muslims today. At the end of the day is whether you want to pray or you do not want to pray. If you want to pray, if you are sincere, Allah will give you a way. This is based on experience. Allah will give you Allah will give you a way. I still remembered one of the difficult times I had when I was in Spain, in a place that is called Sevilla. And in Spanish they call it Sevilla. Actually in Arabic it's called Ishbiliya. Ishbiliya used to be the capital of Andalus. The capital of Andalus. But when I'm there, I went into the Jami' Ishbiliya. This is the biggest mosque in Andalus. It is bigger than the mosque in Cordoba. Of course, in Spain, you cannot pray in the mosque, because now it becomes a church, mosques, and it becomes museum and so on. So I cannot find any place to pray, and there were a lot of people because it was a touristic place. So I was having any difficulty finding any place to pray, and there was no musalla. I cannot find any Muslims, and I do not know, you see, because when you look around and you don't see any people wearing Islamic clothing. But I saw a woman with hijab, but when I asked her, she's also a tourist, so she do not know. She do not know where is the musalla or something. So that's the thing. Alhamdulillah, you have your phone with you. You know the Qibla. You can go into the toilet and take wudu. And then you just need to find a spot. So I was finding there was a bus stop, and behind there was like a park. So I prayed there. So in any case and in anywhere, even though you cannot find any mosques and you cannot find any musalla, mashallah, as what our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, that this world what you call it, ju'ilat li al masjida wa tahura. Or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the earth is made a place of worship, and the earth the soil is a means of tahara, and we can do tayammum, and even we do not have wudu, we can perform in the tayammum. So but basically what I'm trying to say is nowadays the ways of ijtihad are made easy by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by using any application. And even you cannot find any Muslims to ask where is the Qibla, you can find the Qibla. You just need to have your phone with you, and you can download any application. So today we do not really speak about bringing a compass. Like 20 years ago, situation is very different, and you go to a hotel room and there is no arrow on top, then you are clueless, and where is the Qibla. You might be praying anywhere, and then you make up for the prayer. But nowadays, mashallah, with all this application, everything is made easy. So when we are outside, sometimes we cannot find a place to pray. Like nowadays, COVID, mosque is closed, or mosques are open, but you got no time, for example, and you do not have any booking, or you do not have any sajada with you. You cannot enter the mosque. I used to experience once in the early days of COVID. I went to the mosque, I forgot to bring my sajada, cannot come inside the masjid, mashallah. So what do? I pray outside in the garden, pray at the car park. As long as you don't block any people, you can perform your prayers. So basically the author is saying, if you do not know the timing of the prayer, you have to do ijtihad, or you ask around people. Akhada bi khabar thiqah. You find any Muslim, mashallah, ask him as the time your prayer comes in or it's not. So he said, okay, and then 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then you wait, you can perform your prayer. Yukhbiru an ilmin. So this person must possess knowledge, and not only what you call it is not based on assumption. So he must know, for example, he knows that the timing your prayer is such and such. Then only we can follow his judgment. Otherwise, it is not permissible. Aw adhanu mu'adhin, or we heard adhan, and we are in a place where there are a lot of masjid, and we heard adhan. Then we can perform our prayers. Aw siyahi dikin mujarrab. Our ulama last time they mentioned this in their books about a rooster, a trained rooster, because rooster can be trained to make the sound at the time in your prayer. So last time what they used to do is they keep roosters outside their house, and their roosters are trained to sound at a particular any time, any for example 5 minutes any before Fajr or half an hour before Fajr. So what you call it, once any the rooster makes any the sound, then we know for certain that the time any of Fajr, any for example, and 5 minutes any to Fajr, or just any a few minutes any to Fajr. And this also any I experienced. I went to a house, and he was the person, and he was keeping a few any roosters. So he was telling me, he was joking with me, night time any before I sleep. He said, in my house any days no need any for you to have alarm clock any for the Fajr prayers. So I don't really understand any what he's saying. And then when morning comes any, the sound any of the roosters any was so loud any until you cannot sleep, because it's like continuous any the rooster any will go any on and on. Then I understand what you call it, why any our scholars any they mention any about this, which I believe any last time this is any one of the best ways any I think they what you call it, without the technology any of alarm clock. So they use any roosters any as their means any to wake up any of a certain time, or to ensure the timing any of a particular time. And then he said, fa illam yajid, if he doesn't have any all these means, ishtahada bi qira'atin aw hirfatin aw nahwi dhalik. So he does any ijtihad any by the recitation of the Quran. So for example, between Maghrib and Isya, 45 minutes, the whole of Baqarah, for example. So he recite Al-Baqarah from the beginning and to the end. So by the time he completes Al-Baqarah, he knows any time of Isya and he has come. So this ijtihad any by recitation. Or hirfa, or he does any something like sewing any the clothes, or he does washing any for example, and he knows that when he wash any certain amount of clothes, the time any of Isya any will come. So this can be used any as a form any of al-ijtihad. So likewise any pertaining any to the one who is blind, wa yatakhayyarul a'ma baina taqlidi siqatin wal ijtihad. So the one who is blind also yani can do ijtihad, or follow a person yani who is not blind if he does any ijtihad. That this is a form of taqlid, and following any others in ijtihad, and it is permissible. Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.